dream I had of another man who changed the world in his own way. So let me take you back, February 2008, New Orleans. Mikhail Gorbachev in town gives a speech about abolishing nuclear weapons. This is years after he's the premier of the Soviet Union. I don't know what to allow you wait to see him. I got an hour and a half to ask any question that will fill up as far as what I learned on. Well prepared, ready to go, phone rings. It's the publicist. Cal, I'm sorry to tell you, but your interview with Mr. Gorbachev is going to have to be cut a little short. Now I'm concerned. Here's why. As far as what I've learned, Colin, is strictly in the subject's own words. And those words can't just be any words. They have to be wise words. There's no way that I can fluff this up. Fill it out. I need at least an hour to get into the subject's soul and extract the wisdom to fill that column. How much time do I have? 10 minutes? 10 minutes? I can't possibly make this work in 10 minutes. This is no way. Cal, I'm sorry. A lot of very important people have been added to the list to see Mr. Gorbachev. There's nothing I can do about it. Do you want the time or not? Well, of course I take the time. But as I hang on the phone, I'm feeling worse and worse about this because I know I'm going to go in there, say hello, and exchange pleasantries, sit down. There's 2 minutes right there. Plus, my questions have to be translated from English to Russian, and his answers back from Russian to English. By the time I get in there, I'm down to 5 minutes. But time arrives, publicist walks me into this conference room, and there he is, Gorby. Plus a little older than I remember, he was about 77 at the time. As I'm looking at his face, I'm thinking, I'll bet you he thinks my first question is going to be about Ronald Reagan, nuclear arms, world politics. So I look him in the eye and say, what's the best lesson your father ever taught you? He's surprised. He's surprised in a pleasant way. He looks up, doesn't say anything. And then, it's almost as if he can see a movie of his past playing on the ceiling. And he starts to tell me a story. A story about the day his father was called to fight in World War II. Now, Gorbachev's lived on a farm, and he's describing his trip from the farm to the town with his family to see the father off. He's telling me in intricate detail, and I'm transfixed, but I'm also thinking, wrong question. My time's going to be up before the Gorbachev even gets to town. But the Gorbachevs do get to town. And when they get to town, Mr. Gorbachev buys everybody an ice cream. Gorbachev's talking about this ice cream, the aluminum cup that it came in. And as he's talking about this ice cream, I can almost see it in the palm of his hand. He's talking about this ice cream, and it's as if, as he's speaking, this cup of ice cream in my mind and in his becomes the reason that he was able to make peace with Ronald Reagan and end the Cold War, because this cup of ice cream contained the memory of what it was like just before his dad went to war. The dread he felt of not knowing whether his dad was ever going to come back. So I'm looking at this ice cream. He's looking at this ice cream. We're both looking at each other, back at the ice cream, back at each other, and we're thinking, this is deep. Just then, knock on the door. It's the publicist. Gorbachev, Cal, the interview will have to be over now. And he looks over at the translator. And he says, no, I want to talk to him. She puts her hands up, slowly walks out the door. Conversation continues, goes deeper. 10 minutes later, another knock on the door. This time, the publicist comes in a little more sheepishly. Mr. Gorbachev, Cal, is it time? And Gorbachev says, no, I want to talk to him. The publicist backs out. Conversation continues. 10 minutes later, there's a very heavy knock on the door. Publicists come in, and she is in a panic. Please, get the mayor outside. There's a long line of people to see you, Mr. Gorbachev. And a smile comes to his face, and he looks at me with this expression that says, hey, what can I do? Column gets filled. It's a big success. And when I thought back on it, I realized if I hadn't aimed my first question at his heart, I never would have gotten that insight. If I'd asked a canned question, I probably would have got a canned answer. The interview would have been over, and I never would have known what was possible. So, how did I find out what was possible in an interview? That's another story. But I could boil it down to 3 words. Having no money. Anybody can do it. All you need is to have no money. Well, maybe a little money. Let me explain. So I'm about 24 years old, and I feel like I'm in this life crisis. I look around and I realize everything I've set out to do in my life, I've done. For example, my dream as a kid was to see my face over a column in a big city newspaper. Jack didn't have the same West Coast Dispatch. I dreamed, oh, I want to go to the big time, New York City, and write for a great magazine. Jack did that for an amazing startup called Inside Sports that sent me to Pittsburgh to interview the Steelers while they went for their Super Bowl ring, and also set me at the bar with a gonzo journalist, Hunter S. Thompson. Not long after we threw back shots for a night, Inside Sports goes belly up. And I'm left there thinking, what am I going to do now? How am I going to top that? Not an ordinary job. So I call my mom and dad, and I say, you know, I've been thinking about this. I'm going to take some time off, do a little traveling. Oh, that's a wonderful idea, my mother says. Little did she know when she said it, I wasn't coming back home for 10 years. But it was an amazing trip. It took me all around the world, and the reason that I was able to do it was I had no money. Very little money, but certainly not enough to spend on hotels night after night as I traveled. So this is what unfolded. I show up at a bus station, train station, ask for a ticket to the next destination. It didn't matter where I was going. What mattered to me was to walk down the aisle. As I'm walking down the aisle, I'm looking for an empty seat. An empty seat next to somebody who looks interesting. Somebody I think I can trust. Somebody who looks like they can trust me. Because once I sit down in that empty seat, I know I got to start a conversation. And by the end of that ride, I need that person to trust me enough to invite me to his or her home. Otherwise, I have no roof over my head. Let me tell you how serious I took this. I'm walking on that aisle, right? There's a beautiful woman, no rings, smile on her face, looking straight at me, could be a supermodel. I walked right on by because there was no way she was taking me. But that grandmother in the back, that toothless grandmother eating crackers out of her purse, she he could be a winner. So let's say I'm hungry. Walk down the aisle next to Grandma, sit next to Grandma. What makes a great goulash? Grandma doesn't speak any English. I speak only a little Hungarian. We're going back and forth trying to understand each other. And even then, this is before the Berlin Wall came down, there were always young people who were learning English, and they always gravitated to this conversation to help. He wants to know what makes a great goulash. Now you see Grandma's just swell. I'll tell you what makes a great goulash. She's talking about her mother's goulash, her grandmother's goulash, all the time, preparation and care that she puts in her goulash. And then she looks around at all these young people and says, I've been on this train for 30 years. You're on this train every day. Not one of you has ever come and sat next to me and asked me about my goulash. But this guy from America comes thousands of kilometers to learn about my goulash. Well, you tell him he is coming to my house, and he's staying with me, and he's going to taste my goulash. And not only that, you come to Grandma invites not only the people on the train, all of her neighbors, all of her friends, all of her family, and they're all gathered around me while I'm sitting at the head of the table as Grandma places down the goulash. And I lift it slowly to my mouth. I taste it, and my eyes close, and a smile comes to my face, rapture. And the crowd goes nuts. He loves Grandma's goulash! A 4-day party breaks out. During which time, God comes over and says, you wouldn't have tasted homemade apricot brandy, would you? Oh no. Well, you know, my father, he makes the best homemade apricot brandy in the world. You would have got to taste his homemade apricot brandy. Promise me. Oh, okay, I'll taste it. After Grandma's party ends, head to his father's house, I taste the apricot brandy, another 4-day party breaks out. During which time, another guy comes over to me. You haven't been to Sedan, the paprika capital of the world, have you? No. You cannot leave Hungary without coming to Sedan as my guest. I am telling you, one question about goulash started a chain reaction that he get me 6 weeks of free lodging and meals. And that's how I got out for 10 years. Herding reindeer on the Arctic Circle, to the Heart of Africa. And then one day I let my guard down. And I spoke to the beautiful woman in front of us on the way to a fairy tale beach in Brazil. And that was the end of the trip. Did I mention she was a supermodel? I better have, because if I don't refer to my wife as a supermodel, I am in a lot of trouble right now. So he has to be flooding, come to the United States, start a family, having kids, and my style of interviewing evolves again. I take what I've learned on these trains and buses, and I transfer it into this column at Esquire started called What I Learned. So this wisdom from traveling is now being transported into conversations with Gorbachev, Robert De Niro, Woody Allen, George Clooney, and hundreds of some of the most complex, talented, and accomplished people on the planet. And that's why I'm on the stage. So I'm talking to a guy the other day, and he says, I don't know how to interview. I have no money. But I don't have 10 years to go around the world to learn. I said, okay, I'm going to break this down for you. I'm going to make this really simple. Here are the rules. Only take a few minutes. Change your questions, and you'll change your life. Changing your questions will certainly help you make deeper connections with everybody you meet in this room. Changing your questions on the job will help your company hire better people. Changing your questions will help you master the art of conversation. But in order to do that, you have to frame your questions, arrange your questions in a very specific order. Aim your first question at the heart, and go to the head. Then follow the heart and the head on a pathway to the soul. Now, this goes way beyond business. The right questions can help you find a spouse. They can help you find a better spouse. They can help you guide your kids with more insight. The bottom line is, great questions asked just the right way will help you be better at anything you do. So, I've already spoken about the benefits of going to the heart. Let's move to the head. The word why is a great way to start a question to the head. That's because the word why, it gently nudges someone to think more deeply about something they already know. For instance, why is your best friend your best friend? Great questions make the person asked just as curious about the answer as you are. Maybe they want to know the answer even more than you do. They'll search for that answer. Listen carefully as they do. Look them in the eyes as if they're the only person on the planet. If you have to ask a predictable question, ask it in an unpredictable way. And when you follow up, make sure you're inviting a response and never pushing one away. The answers you get, the way you take them in, and the way you follow up will clear a pathway to the soul. It's very hard to explain what it's like to enter somebody's soul. But I hope this little story gives you a tiny taste of the experience. So I'm going to take you back to summer 2003. Esquire magazine sends me to write a cover story about my childhood hero, Muhammad Ali. Now, by this time, the world knew that he had Parkinson's disease. This was 20 years after his last fight. And we had all seen him 6 years before at the Atlantic Olympics on the world stage, with the Olympic torch in his hand, trying to light the Olympic cauldron. And he's got the torch and he's putting it down by that cauldron, and it's not lighting, it's not lighting, it's not lighting. And the world is holding its breath. And finally, he positions in its place, and the flame erupts, and so does everybody's heart. But 6 years passed, we haven't really seen him since. And the editors of Esquire wanted to know, how's he doing? So, I go see him. And he comes through the door, sweet, slow, tender steps. I hold out my hand, but he knows that he's my childhood hero. And he opens his arms, and he gives me a big embrace. And then moves over to a big, cushy chair, and he slumps down. I sit in the sofa, Jason, and I say to him, Chad, I came here to find out all the wisdom you have accumulated in your life. He doesn't seem to be paying attention. He seems preoccupied with his right arm, kind of moving back and forth, and now both of his arms were jangling. What should I do? His breathing is becoming heavier, and I'm thinking, should I call his wife? Now, not only is his arm shaking, his legs are shaking, his whole body is shaking, and his breathing is coming faster and faster. Champ, are you okay? His head comes up real slow. He looks me in the eye, he says, just above whisper, scared him, huh? And my week of Muhammad Ali only got more confusing. The next day, he needs a wheelchair to get around. The day after that, he's not in a wheelchair. We're out to dinner, and as we're going to the car, a mass of people see him and start running toward him. And everybody knows he's got to get to the car really quick. And he does. The day after that, guests come over to the house, and he's doing magic tricks with them. Barely speaks above a whisper, but he's doing the magic. The day after that, he takes his medicine for Parkinson's disease, turns his tongue orange. We're sitting on the couch talking, and he just falls asleep in the middle of the conversation, his left leg jangling into mine. And I'm sitting there thinking, how can I possibly make sense of this in a magazine story? How can I communicate this? There's not a single question that can come off my lips that's going to unlock this mystery. So, I'm on my last day. And Mohammed's wife says, you know, Mohammed, you never work out anymore. Why don't you take Cal over to the gym, do a little exercise? And Mohammed rolls his eyes, the wife, oh, okay, Cal, come on. Takes me over to the gym. It's not really a gym. It's like a museum. In the center, it's a boxing ring. Looks like nobody's ever stepped foot in it. Rounded exercise equipment. It looks like it's right out of the box. No smell of sweat. There are mirrors all around the walls, each of the walls. And above these mirrors are photos of Muhammad Ali's 3 epic fights with Joe Frazier. I'm looking at these pictures. These fights were the thrill of my childhood. I can tell you everything about these guys, even the childhood stories that determine their styles and their ring. For instance, when Mohamed was a kid, when he was Cassius Clay, he would have his younger brother Rudy pick up rocks in the street and throw it at his head. And young Cassius would stand there as the rock was coming straight at his head. And just at the last minute before the rock would hit him, he'd throw back his head just like that and let the rock go his body. That became a style in the ring. He danced like no heavyweight ever danced before him. You couldn't get close to him, and if you did, and threw a punch, he just leaned back, and then kicked in, and then about 20 shots hit him in the head faster than a shoe-shining guy in a pair of shoes. Joe Frazier, on the other hand, was a short, stocky guy, grew up in Beaufort, South Carolina, on a farm. His dad lost his left arm, and so his dad used his right arm on a cross saw, and Joe was on the other side, sawing through the wood with his left arm, sawing back and forth, year after year with that left arm. The muscles from all that sawing developed into an unbelievable, wide, brutal left hook that was the only punch a kid who could avoid rocks in the street was vulnerable because it came from out of nowhere. Watching these 2 guys fight was like watching lightning against thunder. I'm looking at those photos, and I can hear in my soul the voice of a man. And I heard his voice because when Mohamed was fighting Joe Frazier, he wasn't young anymore. He was advanced in years. He couldn't dance around all the time. And he started to get in a position where he could be hurt. And he never had faced anybody as brutal and relentless as Joe Frazier, and Joe Frazier started to hurt him. And when he did, there was this corner man named Drew Bundy Brown in Ali's corner who had exhorted him on. He'd see Ali hurt, and he'd scream, "The world needs you, champ! Go to the well once more! Go to the well once more!" And I'm sitting here looking at these photos, and I can hear Bundy in my head. Go to the well once more! And I know that's what I have to do. That is the question I have to ask. I have to find out what is still in the well. Is it time? Well, one of the things you learn about interviewing is save your toughest questions for the end, because that's when the person will have the most trust for you. So I'm looking around, but I can't ask them any question. Speaks like a whisper. There's nothing you can say that really explains this. And I see a rack of boxing gloves. And I'm thinking, should I take the risk? Should I try? I want to open the gloves, take the four off, put two on Mom's hands, two on mine. Now, I have to stop the story here to explain something that will advance the story later on. It's another long story. I won't go into the whole thing, but all you need to know is I once trained 10 years earlier to fight Julio Cesar Chavez when he was the junior welterweight champion of the world, 87-0. And I am still here. There's one round, and I survived. The thing you gotta know about this experience was I trained for this fight in the exact style of Joe Frazier, because I'm short and stocky, and so I got these gloves on, and I started getting my crops, and I'm about to be like Joe. And I'm looking at Ali at the corner of my eyes, I was going to react to this, and I'm not coming at Ali, I'm moving toward the heavy bag, but out of the corner of my eye, I see Ali's eyebrows arch. And then I move into the heavy bag and I can even sound that to him. I said, "Who's up? Who's up?" And I'm looking at Ali. And Ali's eyes really arch now, like a sleeping lion awakened by an old familiar scent. He moves into the bag. I said, "You think that's going to keep me off?" "No, I'm really about it." He went there. This goes back and forth, until finally I unloaded everything I got. And he looks at me with this realization. Oh, that's your question. And waits till I'm completely out of the way. And then I saw something that I never thought I would see again. Muhammad Ali started to dance. He started to move around the bag. Not like he was when he was 20. He's back. He's moving around the bag. He's circling. And as he's circling, he's looking at himself in the mirror. And as he's looking in the mirror, his chest rises, and his head rises, and now he's dancing, and he's dancing, and he's dancing, and he stops, pivots, and pow! 50 shots. Last one, if the bag was a human, bag was a bag, what about now? I can't believe it. I'm stunned. But then, what I didn't realize was that as Ali was going away from the bag, his legs crossed and he started to trip. And then he started to go down. paralyzed, but then I'm moving to come help pick him up. I take 2 steps, and he flips over, and he starts doing stomach crunches. And it steps. And he's on his back, he's wrestling. And he goes over to the super leg press, it's got 250 pounds on it, grabs the hands, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I said, Jack, you don't have to do that. It feels good. I thought I had pushed him as far as I possibly could, but he still had more to give. We go back to the house. He tells me to sit down at the table. He comes back with a piece of paper and he puts it down in front of me, and he points to a line in the middle of the page. It's a page full of wisdom. I look at the line and it reads, God will not place a burden on a man's shoulders knowing that he cannot handle it. Man, he walks off into the kitchen. A minute later, he comes back. In one hand, he's got 2 bowls. In another, a quart of ice cream. Mohamed Ali and I sit at the kitchen table. We eat ice cream together. Thank you very much.
Talking about drinking, it's coming soon. Should we get set up for the drinks, studies? By the way, please get set up for the drinks. We'll take 1 or 2 questions and set up wine. Reese, you have a question. And then you have a question.
Did you actually punch each other?
No. We just hit the heavy bag. The fight played out on the bag.
So, your advice to go right to the heart when you were meeting someone, let's say tonight, it could be a little bit awkward if you go up and ask, what was the thing they learned from their mother without, properly introducing yourself. How do you recommend warming up in kind of a business networking scene?
It's interesting because I was once at a table, CEOs, one was a foreign CEO. He said to me, I don't understand it. I don't understand this at all. I do exactly what you do, but nobody answers my questions. So then I said, what do you mean? He said, I asked them, what's the best lesson your mother ever taught you? And nobody ever answered. They don't give me any good answers. And I said, well, did you give him a soft landing point? And he had no idea the way his voice was transmitting the question. And so I didn't do it at the time, but I could have actually put my arms on him and said, I want you to say this again and again and again and again. Welcome to my home. Welcome to my home. Welcome to my home. And it got his voice into like a cadence where he could have answered that question. And what I would have done if I was teaching him would be to say, okay, let's say you have a best friend that is coming from your home country. You could go to somebody and say, my best friend is coming to San Francisco. My best friend loves ice cream. What is the best place to take my best friend to have ice cream? Now, that's a very easy question to answer, and the person who's asked is going to want to know, there's this place here, that place here. And then you can say, because my best friend, we were in the Army together, and we were in a really difficult situation, and he saved my life. when he comes, I gotta get the best ice cream. Don't worry, you're gonna love this ice cream place. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. Who's your best friend? See how that flipped around? Now, the person who just gave the name of the ice cream place is going to ask about your best friend. It's just softness rather than grilling.
Thank you.
What, last one. Oh, there's a lot of questions. Okay, this one and this one.
Okay?
Let's try to do this.
All right.
So, why did you stop traveling after 10 years? Later history.
When I got married, my wife wanted to be in the same bed. So we had to settle down and we had kids real quick. And only now, about 25 years later, am I really going to get a chance to start traveling again.
That's the question. And then, thank everyone.
Absolutely.
Good evening. I've noticed that you mentioned ice cream in all of your stories. Is that an effective device? And you do that for all your stories?
You know what? I was talking about this with Kevin, the manager, and I don't know why, but a couple of months ago, I'm walking down the street, meeting an ice cream cone, and I get a message on my phone, Kevin, the manager. He says, "You got a call. Who's it from?" "It's from Kobe Bryant." And I'm thinking, like, Kevin, the manager, had just had a major prank pulled on him. And so I'm thinking, there's no way this is Kobe Bryant. This is Kevin, the manager's payback. He's going to get everybody who participated in it. And even though I had only a little to do with this major prank, I knew he was coming for me. I just thought he would give it a little more time, revenge the dish best served. So I say, yeah, Kevin, sure. And I'm like, I don't even call back. And then about half an hour later, Kevin says, "Well, did you call back?" And I said, I don't know. He said, "Please, call back." So I called the number back, and it's Kobe. And he says, "I've been a big fan of yours for a long time. And I was sitting there eating my ice cream. What's going on here?" And I started thinking, is this like Popeye? You eat your spinach and you get strong all of a sudden. And he says, "Yeah, he starts telling me how when he first came into the NBA, Michael Jackson called him up out of nowhere, invited him to Neverland, and started asking him about the word process, and started to explain the process behind his dances, and showed him videos of Fred Astaire, and took him through time to explain to him, this is the development process." And ever since, Kobe has been consumed by this word. And he'll call up anybody who fascinates him, and he'll say, "What was your process?" So, after this conversation, I hang up the phone, and to answer your question, I'm looking at this ice cream. There's something about ice cream that brings out the best in us. And I was talking about this with Jorge Ramos, the Univision anchor who Donald Trump threw out of the press conference. He said he went into an ice cream shop, and he was once asking, the person serving the ice cream, "Do you like to work here?" And she said, "Oh yeah, because everybody who comes in here has a smile on their face."
Phil, you want to come close, please? With me? Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
That was really awesome. That's for you again. How was it?
Yeah, super good. Thank you everyone for coming. Please hang around for wine and cheese and give us feedback. And just want to thank everyone here.
Alice from NASDAQ and the team from NASDAQ.
Thank you to NASDAQ for this great space, and of course, thank you to our main sponsor, Ben&Jerry's.
I want to thank both you guys, because what I learned tonight, and not only that, next time I'm out of money, I'm going to be thinking of the desperate shape you were in, and I'm going to know, you can do it, Cal. You can do it. You'll find the money. And I'll also know that when you get this going all over the world, I will be like a little girl in the south of France going to new places and thinking,
Yes,
yeah.
we'll carry you everywhere.
So I want to wish you great luck in this endeavor. Please, take me around the world.
We will. How do we contact you? Because you help like companies do this and interview and like how do we get in touch with you?
Yes, you go to calfussman.com and just look for Kevin, the manager. There he is, right back there. You have to get him right away.
Thank you, Kevin.
And what we're doing now is I'm taking all that I learned from interviewing all these great people over the years, and I'm doing workshops with companies and translating what I learned to help them hire better. And it's amazing because when you go into a room and you say to someone, close your eyes. Now, imagine the worst person that you've ever hired. You see people absolutely like starting to shake. So there's a need out there for this. If you know anybody, let me know.
All right, that's amazing. Thank you.